Hey guys, Pehmol here. Since I did my Gul'dan commentary, a lot of you have requested that I do the same for some other boss. And I figured since we spent so long on Star Augur, I'd show you guys at least how we did the boss in progress. I should mention that since we killed it, they have increased the damage of basically all the phases significantly, apart from the last phase. Which means the fight might look differently to what it's right now on live. This is why we're 2 healing as well, as opposed to 3 or I think even 4 healing. Like on Gul'dan, I'm going to go through my talents and then go through the fight afterwards. For the 15 row, you might be able to debate that Crusader's Might could be good, but you spent so much time not being in melee and dealing with various mechanics throughout the fight that Bestow Faith, in my opinion, trumps it by a long way. Light's Hammer is not an option, basically. For the 30 row, Rule of Law you have to take as well, especially during the Fell phase. Everyone is trying to get to the edge of the room and spread out and stuff, so you can't reach everyone, whereas Rule of Law allows you to do just that, which makes it a super strong talent. The CC row doesn't matter. The aura choice is very vital, and in my opinion you should always pick Devotion Aura. Especially for last phase, having that mitigation is so crucial to the fight compared to the output that Sacrifice and Mercy offers. Mitigation is way better than output in last phase. You might not even be able to survive last phase without some sort of mitigation. For the 75 row, even though it is a long and intense fight, much like Gul'dan well, Gul'dan I guess, Divine Purpose could have been strong, but Holy Avenger, the raw output extra you get from it during crucial phases is much stronger, so in the end we decided to play with that. As you can see, we have 2 Boomkins in the raid as well, so having an Innovate for each Holy Avenger, close to it at least, gives me so much free output that it was the better talent for me. In the 90 row, I chose Judgment of Light. There's a lot of ticking damage going on in the raid throughout the phases, so Judgment is a very good pick. Even though Sanctified Wrath might have been good, in the end we agreed that we needed overall healing and not so much burst healing. If you pair Avenging Wrath with Holy Avenger, you're already looking at a lot of output, and the extra duration from Sanctified Wrath and output we didn't really feel was necessary. We more wanted to survive the other phases easier. And for the Beacon row, I chose Faith because both the tanks are taking massive damage basically throughout the fight. Okay, let's get into it now. In the beginning of the fight, from 100% to 90%, there's not really much going on. It's kind of a introduction phase to how do the stars work and stuff. You'll see the tanks get smacked, and there's some debuff that takes some people. We actually used my wings for it. You'll see me cast my my artifact weapon with my wings soon, because at the point in the fight when I need them again, these debuffs that just went out on the melee, I have my wings ready again. So being able to spend less mana on healing these is always a good option if you can. Generally as well, we came to the conclusion that healers should stand still as much as possible. We had a few annoying wipes to the tanks dropping off because sometimes both healers had to run at the same time, which is why you will see, at least when possible, you will see the DPS running to the healers instead of the other way around. I do go into melee mostly in just as you saw right now, and in last phase to DPS the boss. In the ice phase and the fell phase, there's really not much room for you to be on the boss, as I said with Crusader's Might. Even though some of the DPS pushes are somewhat difficult, and there is a push in the frost phase that you can skip if you have enough DPS, it's just not viable for you to be in melee for that long. You see the Innovate goes out here with my Holy Avenger. This was just, we had some, like I said, some annoyances with the tanks dying off, and this was one of them. So we decided to use on this and just pair it with the Innovate for the free output. Now these, the ice fades, the ice debuffs, they get more and more difficult the longer you're in the phase because more go out. And there's an annoying overlap as well, while they come on top of the stars, which makes them not only hurt a bunch, but you need to rush them and clear the stars quickly, which makes it very difficult to get around the room when all the icy ejections out everywhere, and it's a really difficult phase. You can actually see Gossi dropping up to the frigid pulse because he stood in it for a second too long. So I actually get my second innovate. We made a tactic revolving around Gossi dying off actually in the last phase to the eye. One, to increase Retalice's damage. He gets a buff anytime an ally of his dies. And two, to give him his own personal lust. So you will see once we go into last phase, just as the first eye spawns, Gossi's gonna die to it, and Koning is gonna lust for the entire raid. And then as soon as the lust goes out, Gossi anks, which allows him to use his lust for his own benefit, purely for healing, and not for any DPS purpose. Lust is a really big healing cooldown, and especially big for Resto Shamans because of the trait they get, where they do increased healing for the duration of Lust. Now these ice debuffs that just went out now, you can actually skip if you have enough DPS. And as soon as these are sort of safe, it's a really good time to sit down and channel. So in the beginning of the fell phase, there's no damage going out. You should see me do it right now. You get like 10 to 15, depending on when you push, seconds of downtime, where you can just get a full channel off. And it's a really good phase. I recommend you use it for that. Now this phase is where Rule of Law comes in handy a lot of the times. You will see me play kind of sparse with it because you really want to have a stack ready for those crucial moments. As you can see, even though the debuffs themselves aren't, one stack is not going to kill you, or one debuff isn't going to kill you, the problem is that the entire raid is taking so much damage all the time that you kind of fall behind very quickly. And these small breaks in between the debuffs are where you need to catch up and get the entire raid topped and ready for the next set. It's a very intense fight, and very hard to heal. You can see I use my wings to top the raid and then to cover the first debuffs here, keep them safe. I use an innovate as well from Serbs. There is one dangerous overlap as well in this phase. It's coming up soonish. I think it's the next Nova, where the Nova goes out very close after the stars, which means that you essentially need to clear the stars very quickly and then be ready to get to the edge of the room so you don't take too much damage from the Nova. We had a lot of trouble with that as well during progress. That's by far the hardest part of the fight, is that one overlap. While the last phase might be difficult in itself, it's not more difficult than this. The problem is getting there consistently and actually progressing in the fight. And you can see Rule of Law coming in handy 2 times close to each other there to save Just Wait. These are the difficult ones. You can see the stars go out and you can see how clumped up we are and actually close we get to exploding. As you can see, my mana is getting quite low here. The way we planned the fight was basically for me to cover the first ad in last phase. All the damage come from that. This is after these debuffs, nothing else goes on, by the way. So as soon as you have these, if you don't have a debuff, run into melee and smack the boss and try and phase him. If you don't push him to 30% where he phases, he's going to phase automatically, which means you're already behind on the boss in last phase, which is not very good. Anyway, our tactic was for me to cover the first ad basically, and after that Gossi takes over and just heals as much as he can because he has a lot of mana. He has lust for himself and he's a shaman, he has a lot of cooldowns. So covering the raid is really good for him. So you'll see me just DPSing as much as I can in this phase. Looking out for the eye kind of. This is where Gossi dies off, like I said. Narclis gets the buff and as soon as the ad spawns we're gonna lust. We lost a bit early, sorry, my bad. And then Gossi anks, which gives him his own lust whenever he wants to. This is where I use all of my juice basically. I get the innovate because I'm low on mana already, kind of. And because of how mana intensive this phase is, you can see Nog actually dies off, even though I'm trying to cover the entire raid. Like I said, moving is not very fun as a healer in this phase, especially when I had to run to clear my mark, and unfortunately Nog dies. But we have a res left over, so it's okay. You see me stunning an ad here to proc my Cephus. The most difficult bit about this as a paladin is probably figuring out how much you can DPS and how much you have to heal to keep everyone alive and still do at least some DPS, because the DPS check is really tight on this fight. If you can stay alive, however, the DPS is generally manageable. See is where we use Gozu uses his tide and his ascendance. I use my aura mastery to cover the big burst from the ad and the boss AoE. Gozu uses his Ankh totem on this one because it carries over into the next one. You can see there's still 10 seconds left on it, and the next one is hitting right now. This is the one that hurts. And after this, if you make it to this point, the boss should be killable, hopefully. You can see the Shadow Priest are dying off slowly to Surrender of Madness. We used the immunities in this last one. Basically no raid cooldowns left at this point, and the boss just has to die. And there you have it. Hope you enjoyed this, like always. Peace out, boys.